Hello, friends in cinema. Welcome to the 47th Seattle International Film Festival and this evening's live roundtable conversation with filmmakers from Taiwan. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that we live, work, and play on the traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples, specifically the Duwamish, Suquamish, and Muckleshoot tribes, and that we occupy this land. This acknowledgement does not take the place of authentic relationships with Indigenous communities, but serves as a first step in honoring the land we occupy and resisting the erasure of Indigenous past, present, and future. I encourage us all to turn this acknowledgement into action by supporting Indigenous communities financially if you are able, and through centering Indigenous voices in the film's art and wider cultural conversations you engage. I neglected to introduce myself. I'm Dustin Casper. I'm Educational Programs Manager as well as a programmer with the festival. And I hope you've been enjoying the films and especially the films from Taiwan. I want to remind you, don't forget to vote. You can rate the films that you've seen using the star ratings on each of the film's individual pages at watch.sif.net. And your vote for the Golden Space Needle Audience Award, which will be announced Sunday, April 18, is important to all of our filmmakers. Also a reminder that SIFF is a year-round nonprofit organization and your support means a lot. If you join or renew your membership by April 18, you are entered to win a pass to the Milwaukee Film Festival, which you can attend virtually from May 6 to 20. And you can also support SIFF with a donation at sif.net/donate. This event is a Zoom webinar. It means that you can see all of us, but we can't see or hear you. But you are absolutely essential to participating, and we would love to have you submit questions if you have them at any point during the presentation. If you have a question that comes to your mind, feel free to submit it in the Q&A portal. There are two different things. There's a Q&A and a chat. The Q&A portal lets us keep the questions all in one place, and our intention is to have the conversation, and then at the end of the conversation we will engage with the questions that have piled up there throughout the time and answer as many as we can before our time is up. You are also more than welcome to converse with each other in the chat by changing your little blue bar from panelists to panelists and attendees. That will allow you to talk with everyone else who's viewing within this Zoom room. I would love to thank several people, several sponsors who are essential in making this event happen tonight. The first of which is the Taiwan Academy for their support of Taiwan cinema at our 2021 festival, and the Taiwan Studies Program at the University of Washington for their assistance in preparing and promoting this roundtable conversation. We are joined tonight by Angel Chou, who will be translating for this conversation, and I am delighted to pass the moderating baton to Ellen Chang, who is a doctoral candidate in cinema and media studies at the University of Washington. Take it away, Ellen.
Thank you so much, Dustin, for getting us started. Thank you to everyone behind your screens again for joining us at the Taiwan Films Roundtable this evening. Today we have Director Chen Ming-lang from The Teacher and Director Guo Zhendi of Final Exam, and producers Yi-Sen and distributor Eric Chou for Get the Hell Out, join us to discuss their cinematic visions of Taiwan. So maybe we can give them a virtual round of applause first. Okay, so I have so many questions, so let's just get straight to the big ones now. Well, all three of these films can be seen as a form of social commentary. Each of them approached the issues in very distinct and unique ways. Like on the one hand, The Teacher and Final Exam address LGBTQ rights and rural education in Taiwan with a more realist and almost documentary mode of filmmaking. On the other hand, Get the Hell Out, while grounded in the reality of political corruption, went with a fantastical style with a heavy load of actions and special effects. Can you tell us a little more about what the initial inspiration were for the concept of these films, and how did the filmmaking and production team land on these specific topics? And how did the style unfold and eventually develop into the final looks that we are seeing in theater now?
所以请问你的拍摄的风格灵感来自哪里？然后导演与制作人是什么选择？要如何反映社会的问题？然后还有拍摄的过程是什么样的？
好，那我就先回答，因为他刚刚翻译了哈。其实这个过程蛮特别的，就是说，在台湾有一个 FACE 联盟，那我因缘际会去参加了他们的那个冤案的研讨会，所以我们在大概1周的时间读了70个判例，就是跟冤判有关的案例。那协助的律师也都来到现场跟我们分享他们的经验，所以在那个过程中，我有感觉到，就是说那个人跟人之间的理解，那个鸿沟比我想象的大很多，然后阶级之间的距离，也比我们想象的远很多，好，不好意思，我先让 Angel 翻译一下好了。
So for director Chen, it's Guo is it's a little unique. So she first saw that they had a forum sort of event, and then so they attended it, and there were also a lot of lawyers who expressed their experiences there, and that's where she realized that there were a lot of gap between people's communications and the issues at large.
那所以我开始想到说，我怎么样写一个故事去呈现这种阶级之间的距离，或者人跟人之间的互相不能理解。那我觉得或许不只是法官跟被审判者的距离，甚至一起长大的亲兄弟，因为他们成长的过程到最后就业的状态，他们也可能有那么大的鸿沟。
So she started thinking, how can she use these stories that she heard to express the discrepancies between the status gap and people to people issues at large. So it's not just an issue between how the judge and the prosecuted is, but it's also the story behind for this family themselves too when these issues happen.
对，所以我就设定了一个白领的哥哥，就是努力从蓝领家庭翻身变成白领的哥哥，跟他蓝领的弟弟。那这中间想要用这对兄弟来呈现那个所谓沟通跟理解的困难，这样子。
So she created the story of a teacher who's kind of like a white collar directions brother, older brother with a struggling blue collar younger brother to express this issue and also express the communication problems they have between each other.
当时很希望能够写一个故事，让观众察觉到，自己的状态，可能也很接近这个哥哥。可能我一开始设定我的观众或许是，比较白领的观众，所以想要呈现一个所谓白领的日常，所以会选择一个比较写实的风格。
So initially she thought she's writing in the perspective of the older brother because that's kind of also how she saw herself as perspective wise, and And that is why she ended up with this more like a realistic realism sort of direction for style-wise.
先说到这里好了。
Thank you so much. It was really interesting to see how the background story of this film is really very, very different from what we're eventually seeing on the film. And I wonder, should I let Angel translate first?
Oh, 可以 OK you can continue, yeah.
Okay. And I wonder if Director Chen and also Eric and have any other thoughts and also want to share about your filmmaking experiences of this film?
Can we start first?
Of course, go ahead.
Our producer Yi-Sen will be actually elaborate more about this point.
逃出立法院这个片子，其实最早一开始是我们有一天在跟编剧聊天的时候，我们突然想到，其实世界各国都有活尸电影，都有成功的活尸电影，尤其像这几年的韩国其实特别杰出。然后我们就想说，如果台湾要做类似这样的题材，我们可以怎么做？然后并且有自己的观点。那因为
They started this idea because they saw how zombie movies is very popular and everybody has their own version, and they want to see how would their own version be like with their own unique way. How can they add in the Taiwanese flavor into it?
然后其实，在前年台湾的政治新闻，其实是台湾一般的民众是非常热衷的议题，甚至于政治新闻的热衷度还比其实到前年的台湾很多电影票房的讨论度还要高。
And previously, in previous years, there's been a lot of parliament news about the assembly floor fiascos sort of thing. So that is what inspired them to write about it.
所以我们就在思考，那好像有机会把就是有一些政治方面的情形跟活尸片做一个结合。那我们就开始了进行大概1年的剧本的撰写。
So after discussion, they decided to incorporate the kind of the silliness they see in the assembly and combine it with this zombie direction style.
同时，我们也在台北电影节金金马奖看到了一个新锐的导演叫王一凡。那也因为王一凡的片子，让我们觉得他的影像风格很强烈，很有自己的个性，所以我们就找王一凡导演来合作开发这个题材。
And they met up with director Yi-Fan during the Golden Horse Awards, and they saw that his style really fits this material.
差不多这样。
Thank you so much, Yi-Sen. The combination of like social issues, the protest, and also with the genre is really interesting. It's a very interesting and wonderful twist for this film from my own audience point of view, and I really enjoyed that. Director Chen, would you like to share?
So for me, I started from reading a lot of local news. There were some stories that caught my attention, which involve LGBT teachers being sued or prosecuted for being HIV positive or lecturing LGBT related issues in their classrooms. So then I got to think about what it is like for a young LGBT person to fall in love in the current society in Taiwan. We know that Taiwan has changed a lot since the end of martial law in 1987. So what is interesting in the year 1987 is that there was a huge scandal about a 23 years old young man who was the first person in Taiwan to be exposed of his HIV status publicly on the media. It was a frenzy. That person in question is Tian Qiyuan. He then went on to become a famous and invigorating theater director in the next 10 years before he died in 1998. However, the way he was treated by the society while he was alive was what I think the real scandal. So the beginning of the movie The Teacher, there was this Buto dance is one of his works. So I wanted to investigate how much the society opinion towards LGBT has changed since the last 30 years. And I also wanted to present the situation the young generation faces nowadays. So that's why I kind of set out to make a documentary style drama to make it as close to reality as possible. While our production was scheduled to start, we came upon the marriage equality referendum. Then I just called my actor Oscar and said, oh, you know what, we have to go out and shoot this. Which is why, you know, all these elements that combined into our movie.
It's so interesting to learn about the order of how you put things together. Because when I was watching the film, I thought the reels about the protests and everything was actually already filmed and done way longer than when you were shooting the film. But it was just such a wonderful coincidence, I guess.
Yeah.
And that very close to life documentary almost kind of style works so well with this film. So thank you so much for all these beautiful works. And I am seeing one of the questions from the Q&A sections, which fits so well with my first question. So I'm going to read it out. So Ray and our audience is asking, is it just a coincidence that 2 of the 3 films represented on this panel are about teachers? Or like, do teachers have an especially prominent cultural position in Taiwan?
所以这个问题是这2部片都是有老师当题材的，他们想问是不是有特别的原因，为什么要用老师来当题材？在社会上，
对，在台湾的社会里头，我想尤其在我的世代老师代表的是一个好的职业，然后也代表一个能力被肯定的白领。
So for my generation, especially, teacher represents a very good, secure career path, and it is very well respected.
那当然，所以当我要寻求一个观众可以投射的对象的时候，这个职业会很快的出现在我的选择当中。
So when I looked at something that will represent really well in the storyline, that be easy for audience to project and relate to, it became teacher being the optimal choice.
然后对于很多台湾比较辛苦的家庭而言事实上在过去因为师范学院都有一个所谓公费生，所以呢 成为教师事实上是一个没有背景、没有身份的年轻人，甚至家里比较贫穷的年轻人，能够翻身，就是阶级往上爬升的一个非常普遍的选择。
And especially as a career, it is a little easier for family with a struggling background, and that they can enter without too much, not as much issue compared to other careers. And that barrier, without that barrier, that is why it is a good choice for the main character.
就是说，你靠着自己的能力而达到阶级流动，
所以
教师是一个很有代表性的角色。
So it very much the character teacher can become a good teacher by their own merits and not by their own background or society's status.
对，那对我而言，它会是一个整个所谓结构里头一个非常有象征性的角色，所谓社会结构里头蛮有象征性的角色。
So for in society, it is a good project direction.
Symbolic
Yeah, symbolic sort of goal to pursue.
所谓结构性的、象征性的是说，比如说法官跟审判者之间的权力关系，有时候也很像，法官跟被审判者之间的权力关系，有时候也很像，在某一个时间点上，老师跟学生的权力关系。
And the relation between a lawyer and the prosecutor is very similar to the relation you see between a teacher and their student.
所以可能觉得这样的角色的选定，可以让这个故事里面的几组角色都可以互相呼应，这样子。
So choosing the teacher and the student story really helps her tell the story of like the social structure story that she wanted to.
For me, the first reason I choose a teacher as my character is that I realized that in the movie world, teachers are usually crazier than a normal person. You know, if whatever movie you can see, if they talked about teacher, they are crazy. That's a joke. But then in Chinese speaking society, teachers are usually being held in a very high moral standard. They are being very inspected, being watched by publics. They need to be a standard of behavior for the normal people, for the students, for the little kids. Which is why they are being watched closely, in a society, and whatever they do does affect, a lot of criticism, or a lot of things like that. Yes.
Yeah, it's great to see. Having teacher as the main role not only brings in a lot of layers to the film as it reflects the Taiwan society, but also bring in like a very purposeful contrast for the issues that both directors want to discuss through your film. So great choice again. I'm just gonna always I'm like giving you thumbs all the times. So since we're talking about the teachers and the students, I think it's a good segue to move on to my next question. So in recent years, we are seeing a lot of actors and actresses in Taiwan expanding their careers across a wide range of artistic formats, styles, and media platforms. For example, from documentary to fiction, and from television to stage and big screen productions. How do your roles as director, producer, or even distributor change in response to the joining of these actors and actresses coming from different media industries? And how does the arrival of these younger, more multifaceted and genre-crossing actors and actresses change the way in which films are made and produced in Taiwan?
所以导演们有丰富的经验，然后拍摄过很多纪录片、电视剧、音乐、MV、电影等等。然后我们也现在渐渐看到很多新一代的演员也慢慢的尝试许多不同的艺术舞台，像电视剧、舞台剧等，从小荧幕到大荧幕。请问跟这些新一代的多元化的演员们，当个导演与制作人的你，有没有改变、尝试不一样的拍片过程、经验或风格，还有跟新手与儿童演员合作的经验有什么不一样？
这次请其他人先说好了。
OK， 我先说好了。我们这一次其实像女主角赖雅妍以及女配角高慧君，其实他们都是有剧场跟电影、电视演出经验的演员。其实现在在台湾，其实跨界演出的演员其实越来越多了。
So for both the main character and the supporting actors, they're both have TV and stage experience, and they've been seeing this a lot, that actors have more and more experience across platforms.
其实这次比较特别的是，反而是比如说，因为我们电影里面有很多大量的伙食，那他们其实反而是这一些非职业演员，对我们来说，这一次的拍摄上面来讲会花比较多的时间，因为他们有很多动作的训练跟设计。
So for this time for the zombie movie, there's a lot of zombies, and that is the actual bigger challenge, where they have a lot of amateur actors to play the zombie. So there's a lot of choreography going on.
就是每天在那个拍摄现场，70个伙食演员里面，大概有20个是就是动作组的演员，那其他的都是非职业演员。那我们大概在拍摄前也花了将近2个月的时间做，帮助他们做训练。
So every day there's about 70 total actors. Only probably 20 are the professional action stars, and the other they have to on-site training.
其实整体来说，还是在看电影本身的类型是什么。那基本上跨界的演出，其实在现在全世界来讲，其实都还蛮普遍的，是一种蛮常见的一种现象。
So it really depends on the style of the movie, but this new trend of different types of actors is pretty common.
当然是这样。好，我这边 OK 了。
Yeah, it's very refreshing to see how like a zombie movie coming out of Taiwan. It's really special. It's something that we haven't really seen before. So that behind the scene story of making the film and working with the actors and actresses is really helpful. and Director Chen or Director Kuo.
Okay. So it's interesting to hear that Eric's movie has 2 months of training session. For me, we have a very long casting and training process as well. In order to work with both professional and non-professional actors, I started a workshop 4 months before the shooting, while in the meantime conducting auditions to search for my casts. When I like someone in the audition, I would ask them to come in to join the workshop without telling them what role they would be playing, and not even showing them a word of the script. So people will be coming in all the time, and for weeks or so, if they are not, how would I say, I couldn't think of a role that they could fit into the movie, I would say, okay, that would be it for you. So it's sort of like a constant workshop to try to put together professional actors and non-professional actors and let them start to know each other and start to know how to coordinate or even react with each other's acting style. Yeah, so I think my objective for this movie is trying to catch the very immediate responses from the actors. So no actors had read the script until the shooting began. So that was my process of the auditioning and casting.
Yeah, go ahead, please. Sorry.
我就讲讲跟儿童演员工作的经验。当时我在高雄县，现在已经算高雄市啊，走了很多比较偏乡的小学校。那我第一个步骤是去旁观小朋友上课。好，那后来我选定了几个小学，我就跟学校谈定，就是我替他们办一个小小的表演课，就是在这几个小学里面，我就是带老师、表演老师去替小朋友上表演课。
So for her, she talking about her experience working with kids. She went to Kaohsiung area to like more rural small schools, and then she went there to observe the kids, how they are in class, and then she communicated with the school, and they did a joint performance class with these students.
所以在这个上课的过程中，最后我选定了阿联国小凤山分校。
And from that, she then decided to and selected Alien. 什么？
凤山。
公山分校。
凤山分校。
sub
school.
A school. A school there.
Very small school, yeah. The kids, 这些小孩5年级的小朋友呢，他们是从幼稚园就一起长大的，所以他们之间的那个互动跟默契非常的好。大概他们这一班有9个小朋友。
So these kids are 5th grade now, but they've been as classmates since they were kindergarten schools. Like they really have that rapport and that friendship there already.
然后他们是很多人参加足球队，喜欢户外活动。那从我的观察，他们也比较不是那个所谓非常对媒体自觉的小孩。
And they grew up and they love playing football. And she also observed that they were not very affected by anything by the media.
那他们的导师在上课的时候跟他们的互动也非常的好。
And they have really good relation with their homeroom teacher.
所以我带着我的演员也到学校就是演这个老师的演员也到学校参与他们的课程，然后也跟他们一起做户外教学。
And then so she brought her actors to also interact with the students and did a lot of after school sort of activities together.
Yeah. 我非常谢谢这些小朋友因为他们给了我非常真实的情感这样子。
And she's very thankful for these kids because they really brought out the authenticity and the emotion for the movie.
当然在训练的过程中，我们大概也做了3个梯次，每一次各1周的训练。那我们在这个观察当中，最后指定了3个小朋友作为比较核心的演员。
And then, of course, they did some training with the kids. So they did some weekly trainings. And from that, they selected 3 of the most best 3 to really portray the characters and be the main characters that you saw.
然后我带了一个在台北已经有过参与电影经验的小朋友，所以他算是一个比较职业的演出者，来到这个班级，那扮演一个所谓转学生的角色。
And then she brought in a kid who had some experience with acting from Taipei, and she had that kid be in the role of like a transfer kid in the story.
对于参加过这个电视电影演出的小朋友，有时候他们会有一种电视演出的习惯，因为电视是一个小荧幕，所以他们会有一种惯性演得比较夸张。
So a lot of time there's an issue with kids who had experience in TV drama acting, because in TV drama, a lot of time they are very exaggerated in their portrayal of the characters.
对，所以我们确实也花了一点时间去调整这个有职业演出经验的小朋友，但是小孩子都是很敏感的，所以在我们老师的训练之下，他能够分辨什么是真实的情感，什么是夸张的演出。
So she made sure that the experienced kid actor got a little extra separate training to kind of get rid of this exaggerated form of acting, so that they can get the actor to really portray authentic emotions.
Thank you all for sharing that. It's not only really impressive to see the mixture of professional and non-professional actors in your films, but also seeing actresses such as Lai Ya-yen being so different on the screen, doing very dramatic role compared to her other works. So it's just very, very amazing when I'm watching all of these films and comparing all of the 3 films together. It really creates a very interesting and special landscape. I think it's really particular for Taiwan, considering all these actors and actresses coming from very different acting and also cultural backgrounds. And since we mentioned that transfer student in final exam, his acting is incredible. And that's another very wonderful segue for my next question. So in all three of these films, there are like very, very intense moments that from my point of view, or I believe in many audience point of view, would seems extremely challenging to film, either emotionally or technically. For example, in The Teacher, there is the hospital scene when Eric was looking for his partner, Gao Jingwu. And in Final Exam, there is an intense confrontation between Fang Xiaosheng and a teacher, Lin Lihong, when the student was pressured to write a letter of apology. I have to say that moment, I almost cried that moment. And then in Get the Hell Out, there are those very, very chaotic scenes involving fights, not only between humans and zombies, but also between legislators representing different political views in the parliament. So I wonder if you can tell us more about the making of these moments, or if there are any other scenes that were particularly challenging or difficult to realize and bring to life.
所以观众看到有几个高难度与生动的故事桥梁，然后想问的是，你们是如何拍摄这些特别真实和深度的场景的拍摄过程，还有或者有其他场景是你觉得有深刻或难度的吗？
其实表演很身体性，所以方小胜当我们试图要让他放弃一些所谓电视表演的习惯的时候，我们试着让他的身体先去做一些必须要很用力的动作，给他一些困难的动作，让他必须用尽全身的力气。
So for acting, it's a lot of emotions coming, even that involves the whole body. So for them, when they prep the young actor in the scene, they kind of encourage him to really get from internal emotional to involve the whole body to express that emotion that you see on screen now.
其实讲的很直接，就说，一开始我们就是整个人把他 hold 住，然后让他只要很专注的用尽全部的力气，要逃出我们的这个掌控。就是我们开始训练他从身体要全身用力，对。
So one of the things they did was to express the pain that he had in that scene where he's kind of like struggling to escape in a way. So they physically kind of like held him down, like restrict him in a way that he can like physically feel it first, so then he can portray it.
对，大概在这样的训练大概1周之后，我们开始加入一点情绪的元素，就是让他去想象那些让他必须要用力的事件，这样子。
And then after the training about a week, they started adding a little more training on how to express these physical things to more internal emotional thing and how to express it.
对，就是尝试让他用自己的想象去把他的情绪跟这个用力的状态连接在一起。
So helping him to imagine and make the connection of these physical pain that he might have to something more emotional that he can portray.
对，那所以在这场戏进行之前的1小时，我们试着引导他去进入一个他人生经验中最在意的事件，这样子。
So before the scene, an hour before it, they had him to prep by thinking of the worst thing of his life and start from there.
当然，对小朋友而言，他其实可能只是一个想要请假去参加一个旅游而被禁止的状态，但是对他来讲是一个很强烈的情绪冲击，这样子。
So for kids, it might be something as simple as that he wanted to go on a trip, but he couldn't. So for that was what it took for him to really get into that emotion.
对，那 他做得非常的好，我们大概只拍了3个 take 啊。
So he did so well, very emotional that he only took 3 takes to get what you see right now.
Yeah.
好 ，OK，我们这一次其实挑战最大的，诚如刚刚提到的，就是动作跟场景是我们这一部电影最大的挑战。那尤其像男女主角在开拍前2个月，其实因为这一次的动作我们是很想要跟摔跤结合，所以他们都必须先去学跟摔跤有关的动作设计。
So this movie involves a lot of action scenes, obviously. So 2 months before, the actors did a lot of training, including a lot of wrestling sort of acting training.
特别是像，其实，在电影里面，不管是男主角还是女主角，基本上有80%以上的动作都是他们自己做出来的，所以其实他们也非常辛苦的去接受这些训练。
And these actors did their own stunts basically for about 80% of the things you see.
特别是还有一些动作设计在拍摄上面的镜头是一镜到底的，所以其实每一次只要一有失误，都必须重来再拍一次。特别是像那个在水上面试的那一场戏，其实我们一整天都在拍那场戏。
And as you know, there's a lot of multiple takes for certain scenes. So it's actually quite tiring for these actors, but they did it over and over again to perfect it.
另外就是场景的部分，因为真实的立法院是不会让我们在里面打斗跟喷血的，所以我们其实在找寻场景上面也花了蛮多时间，特别是导演又是昆汀·塔伦提诺的粉丝，所以他对于喷血这件事情非常在意。
So of course, it is not possible to get the actual assembly floor to film. So it took a really long time for them to find the location, and they had a lot of blood scenes, like blood spurting everywhere, and that is kind of the main important part of the film. So it took a really long time to find the right location for it.
之后我们在高雄找到了高雄旧议会，就是以前已经荒废的立法院来做场景的陈设跟搭建，然后才有机会在电影里面呈现出一个立法院的形态。
So luckily, they were able to find an old government parliament floor in Kaohsiung, and that was perfect for their filming location.
然后大家可以想象，在7、8月的夏天，然后在一个就是一个立法院这样一个室内空间里面，然后70几个活尸演员，然后身上都是血液、血浆，还有演员身上也都是血浆，然后其实每一天拍下来都是一整天的戏，然后加上打斗，是非常辛苦的事情。
And if you can imagine, in the middle of July and August, being indoors with 70+ people with blood everywhere, blood serums and everything, and a whole day of filming is very strenuous and very tiring work.
然后我也很感谢这些演员们的付出，因为其实他们常常在等下一个 take 的时候，其实他们都可以先去休息了，所以他们都还是会想留在现场。当然也有个原因是因为他们身上都是血浆，他们不想再重新被喷血。
And he is very thankful for all the actors sacrificing their time there, and they would actually stay longer than their own take. Because another reason is they're already all bloodied with blood, so they kind of don't want to leave either.
And Director Chen.
Okay, so the teacher is all about Oscar Chou, Oscar, he played the lead character, Kevin Chang. So the scene that you mentioned in the hospital, since I mentioned earlier that we had a very long period of training, during the 4 months, eventually we get to train and fine-tune Oscar into a status that's a mode that he was very much in the character. So the emotion for him and for the shooting is actually not a huge problem. It wasn't difficult. Well, when he was in the character, everything just come out easily as it should be. But there was a big problem that everybody in Taiwan would ask is the sex scene. The sex scenes are initially Oscar has a lot of problem with because I asked them, I wanted the sex scene to be real. So what I wanted them to do is to play it out naked. This kind of thing, I think in Taiwan is not so easy, or is not, they are not used to it. And especially for Oscar, he has a lot to think about. He has a huge family and they are very conservative. So, he was asking me, what am I gonna do? My family, my mother, my father, they go to theaters, they're gonna see me naked on big screen. He couldn't let it go. So that was a huge barrier for him to be able to, to totally commit himself in a sex scene. And so it was a huge battle. We did prepare it. We prepare a lot of protections. We prepare like the little underwear, a cup, everything. We had everything. So during the day of the shooting, I said, okay, we spend the time just to put on those protections. I think it took like, an hour. And so, okay, we started shooting it, and it was like several takes after. I just said to him, it's not working. It looks fake. It just looks terrible. I'm going to show you the footage. Come with me. And I show him the footage, and then he was still not being able to do it. So, I stopped the shooting, and then I had a long talk with him. Of course, with a lot of ways, strategies, trying to persuade him, and this and that. And well, after all, he listened to me. So we just try it. And then eventually he overcome his, a lot of barriers, and we shot the sex scene, both of them naked.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad you got my cue and mentioning that sex scene that I didn't ask. I wanted to ask that, but then I throw out another scene so that you will talk about it on your own. So glad you got that cue. And it's so nice to learn about how the transformation from emotion to like bodily experience and performance through the behind the scenes you talk about. So I have, and it's really similar to the way we're thinking about like social issues and all the background, cultural, political backgrounds behind the films you made. So I want to move on to the next question, which is more about the larger, the broader topics of the background of your films. So in the disclaimer, or like the warning opening credit at the beginning of Get the Hell Out, the last 2 lines read, a wrong movie makes you suffer for only 90 minutes. while a wrong government makes you suffer for 4 years. So based on that statement, I would like to go back to my first question about seeing these films as social commentary. Like, with the plot grounded in or inspired by real life events in Taiwan, what is the most important thing you would like the audience to take away from these films? Are there any subtexts or less obvious topics or issues you would also like to share with the audience?
在逃出立法院片出那个有写着警告，选错电影只要忍耐90分钟，不像选错人，你可能要忍耐4年。所以这3部片都有反映社会现实的电影。你想观众看完电影有什么感受或了解，或者透露你的电影可能学到了什么，还有如果你还有一些想传达给观众，可是可能不是那么明显的讯息是什么？
其实一开始我们在做这个政治嘲讽的国师片的时候，有一个概念还蛮想跟观众分享的，就是其实，在剧中，不管是男主角王有为，他是个孤儿，他想找回自己的家；那女主角莹莹，她想要守护自己的家；替代役其实他想赶快退伍，想赶快回家。其实大家都想要对于自己的家有一个守护的心在。那我们当然希望，其实不管今天，因为台湾的政党是4年一任嘛，所以其实我们常也在政治新闻上面听到大家在对于这样的任期在吵来吵去，或者是有一些嘲讽的一些现象。但其实终究还是回到，如果今天是我们自己居住的家，那我们会用什么样的心态去面对？
So in the movie, the main character grew up in the orphanage, and the actress was fighting to protect her home, and then the security guard you saw wanted to be finish his job so that he can go home soon. So everything, the whole film kind of surrounds around the idea of home and kind of protecting their home. And in Taiwan, the government parliament terms are 4-year terms. So there's a lot of discussions that you always see between every 4 years or during the 4 years. But they wanted to put in perspective of at heart, like, what is it that you want to see at your home then?
其实也像电影的男主角在电影最后的时候，他说了一句话，说不管再怎么乱，它终究是我们的家。所以其实我们也希望观众看完之后，当然感受电影给你的娱乐的同时，其实也可以去想想，我可以为我们家做点什么。我觉得只要有这样的一个念头，能够让观众带走，其实就够了。
So at the end, one of the characters said that it's still my home. And they wanted through comedy that that the audience can think about what can they really do for their home.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I remember one of the lines from, I think, both leading characters. They said, it's never about politics, but it's always about my home. And it's especially touching whenever I saw that for someone like me, being away from home and always looking for ways to connect with Taiwan, with my homeland. So it's especially touching to hear that being screamed out loud in the films. Director Chen and Director Kuo, do you have anything you would like to share?
先说吧。
Well, I'm just gonna be very short. I think a lot of prejudice comes from abstraction. It's easy to pass judgment on people when you don't know who they are. When you get to know a person and when you understand what they went through or even better, when you get to experience their experiences, you know, we're all human beings, we'll all make mistakes, we'll all stumble here and there in life. So it's just more, you know, you get more compassionate, you get more understanding to other people. That's all.
我想对所有的电影工作者来讲，当然，或许尤其对我自己而言啦，就是说，电影与其说呈现答案，或许更多时间是在呈现问题。
So for her, especially, and I probably the same for a lot of filmmakers, is films are a way to show the problem and not give a solution.
所以有些人看到这个期末考这个电影会说你呈现了所谓结构性的加害者，同时这个加害者也是被害者。
So the film, a lot of people would say that you're showing the social structure of the inequality, but then it's also that both sides become kind of a victim in a way.
有些人会觉得说，哎，这样的呈现会不会让大家觉得很失落或者很挫折？
And some audience might react that isn't displaying this kind of disappointing or
frustration
yeah, frustrated
like
that,
no way out something
that it's all just problems and there's no solution.
yeah 但是我自己的想呈现的，尤其在最后的我们男主角的眼泪当中，我自己觉得会悲伤会流泪，好像就是一种救赎了。
So ultimately, she wanted to show that, as you saw at the end when the main character had cried with like a little tears, it kind of symbolized that he kind of like understand the situation.
或者说觉知自己的处境吧，觉察到自己。
Like, yeah, like understand his situation and kind of accepting it, what is happening around him.
或者不只是接受，我自己觉得所谓希望这件事情，可能来自于一种觉察，不管觉察自己的矛盾，觉察自己的挣扎，或者觉察自己的内在同时存在的黑暗跟光明。我那个觉知是一个希望，对。
So not just accepting that this is the problem, but also kind of internalizing, understanding the problem, and so that there is a path to the hope and like a better future in a way.
所以对我来讲，我希望这个电影也有展现一种希望吧。
So she wants the message to be that there is hope to solve the problem.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I have to admit, it's because I watched Get the Hell Out first and then move on to the two other films. And because of that comparison, one is like screaming out loud their anger and everything, but then the teacher and final exam are the emotion of those characters are treated so differently. It was like, I have to admit, it's really hard to watch. Emotionally, it's really stressful because you're, especially when the time is moving so slow, it's as if it's second by second, and you're really experiencing with the character, their struggle and everything, and then going through all the things that are going on at the same time in that 90, very intense 90 to 120 minutes. So I think what you just said about bringing out the question really worked when I was suffering watching those very intense moments in the films. So thank you for bringing that up. And I do have another question from the audience that I think works really well for this, what we're talking right now. And it's from James. Hi, James. So this question is directly for Director Kuo. So is the uncertainty and insecurity of the main character's career as a teacher and his younger brother's withheld wages a reflection or a commentary on the extent of neoliberalism and its effects on Taiwan society? I was struck, for example, by how public school teachers try to convince parents to send their children to their school.
So James has a question. 他的问题是那个，就是林老师他因为他是不是正式的老师，所以是有点未来有点不是很确定。然后他的弟弟的工资也就是收不到，这是不是反映新自由主义？ That's how, I don't know what level neoliberalism is. That the best translation? 还是它就是反映就是台湾社会的问题，还有对 James 来说，他看到很惊讶，看到竟然老师还要到处跑去见不同家长，然后要说服这些家长把他们小孩带去他们的学校。
前一个问题啊，我想在那个所谓资本主义的时代，就是那个所谓贫富不均M 型化的状态，事实上我觉得是不断的在加剧吧，就是那个所谓两极化的状态是不断的在拉大的。
So for the first section, it's definitely a reflection of the imbalance and the inequality of the economic gap between status of people in the society.
然后少子化，因为这个不断的少子化，尤其是在乡村人口的外移当中，所以很多学校为了保住学生，必须做很多招生的动作。
And it is quite common that because there's less and less children in the population, so these more rural area located schools really do have to go around and try to get students to go to their
不
school.
止在小学。台湾现在这种很剧烈的招生活动，很澎湃的招生活动，中学、高中、大学，其实我觉得作为老师有很多的时间花在招生活动上头，这是一个现况。
And it's not just in elementary school, it is from elementary, middle school, all the way to colleges. If their location is more out there, it is really hard for them. And you would see these very extravagant sort of like activities to try to attract new students.
台湾的少子化是非常剧烈的。
So it really reflects the trend of less and less the population growth. There's less and less kids being born.
Thank you so much for answering that question. So since we are at the Seattle International Film Festival, I want to also ask about your experiences interacting with both the local audience in Taiwan versus international audiences through film festivals overseas. Have you noticed any contrasting responses between the different audiences from local Taiwanese to overseas Taiwanese, or even the larger Chinese speaking audiences and foreign viewers?
想问的是，你觉得台湾当地观众与国外的观众最大的回应差别是什么？
So I will start it first. For Canada now, we actually have been experiencing many different film festivals starting from Toronto last year. But actually interesting, back to Alan's question, is actually when I was actually talking about my producer or my director, when we were just trying to, even though actually for last year, it was a sad news that we can't go anywhere. So we have conducted this kind of several different virtual Q&As and other things with the international audience. I think the most interesting is about the international audience comparing to a Taiwan or Chinese audience is actually how they see this title very differently. As speaking of, if we are actually talking to a really bunch of like Chinese audience or Taiwanese audience, they will be most curious about asking a director, like, oh, how would you choose the actor like him or actress like her, or even asking about, oh, well, have they done anything interesting while on the sets or something? They will be more focusing on the actor and actress of our title. But when we're in Toronto or in Hawaii or in other international places, maybe because those actors and actors are not that famous among those Western or American audience, they were actually quite interesting about the director himself. So we have been receiving comments that, oh, you must be the current Quentin Tarantino of Taiwan. Some people even describing our director Wong as the new Stephen Chow. Even though it's a really big compliment, we have to give big thanks to them. But however, at least for me, as an observer, I think the most interesting about the Eastern and Western audience see our title Get the Hell Out is somebody actually, Western people see it as a very genre title. You know, they want to discuss how the director react and how they actually choose to do this and that. But instead of that, for the Eastern audience, Taiwan audience, they will be really focusing on our actor and actors, the star effects that we have in the film. So that's something which I think is actually quite interesting. It's the same movie, but with the different audience from the Eastern and Western, they pretty much focus on the very different spectrums for the both sides. That's all I want to share.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. It's interesting to see how, I mean, for me, when I see Lai Yang on the screen, I have to know something about her. So I think that definitely has something to do with the audience familiarity with the films, the actors, and also the background of the films and anything like that. So they kind of just bypass that and go straight into this gossip mode of asking about the actors and actresses. So yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. So Director Chen and Kuo, do you have any interesting moments to share about your interactions and encounter of like different audiences?
我自己当然作为一个导演，我很希望能够用最特别的故事来说出所谓普遍的人的状态。
So as a director, my hope is to tell a story of a very unique story, but of a very normal person.
对我来讲，就是说，透过影展，透过网络平台，能够跟更多的所谓独立电影的观众接触，是一件很棒的事情。
And for her, it's she really appreciates the film festivals and the online interactions that she can have with people.
我的想象，这个电影的观众，或许不是在某一个特定的区域，它是在每一个不同区域里头，某一群特别喜欢独立电影的观众。
She's imagining her audience being not a person from a particular location geographically, but more of a person somewhere, but is very into independent films.
所以这个我觉得拜网络之赐吧，我觉得或许好像是可以比较 放心的创作这样子。
And so the internet, like being able to reach more widely with internet and technology, really makes her feel happy that she can very safely be creative with what she's making.
真谛说完了。哦，好，So my movie was released in Taiwan in 2019 by the end of the year. So I get to be able to, see the movies, talk to the audiences. And then came 2020. So I've been not able to travel with the film, which I, feel like it was a big opportunity missed to be able to talk to audience in person. So so far, I don't have that. I don't really know what the audience in the States or in Europe, what what they think about. You don't have that opportunity to talk to each other in person. I think that's something that I really missed a lot.
Yeah, I've also heard a lot of filmmakers, especially filmmakers making independent films, actually thought the pandemic and all of these with all the virtual screening and everything got them access to a wider audience, because now everyone can it's just one click away from watching films at home, and instead of having to go to, let's say, Seattle or New York to just watch a Taiwanese film that's only there for 3 days or things like that. So I'm personally taking advantage of this virtual theater fully, and I embrace that, actually, because I'm such a lazy person. I love to stay with my laptop and do everything on my laptop. So, but adding to my previous question, I do have a follow-up question more about film distribution. So what are the challenges you have encountered when distributing Taiwanese films, especially films with a strong Taiwan flavor, to the international markets, and especially those consist of largely audience and familiar with the culture of Taiwan?
Well, I will start it first. So actually, from my experiences in the distribution circus, or actually in the film festival, I think still my main point is just want to emphasize that, yeah, we are actually distributing or try to promote a Taiwan title. But in the end, like what my producer just said, our essence or our main course is actually just talking about home. I think everybody around the world has a home. So that's the same core, or actually that's the same core of the movie. We use a different kind of the genre or the zombie type of thing to try to market it. So even though it's actually still the only thing about Taiwan I have to say to my friends, if I want to encourage them to watch my title, is that, oh, this is only Taiwan because we are speaking Chinese. But other things, rather than that, we're talking about the politicals, we're talking about home, we're using this kind of zombie or this kind of genre thing to promote it. That's something I think is universally accepted. And even though this is my belief, but I can still actually encounter some people saying that, oh, this doesn't happen to my country. But I have to say that, oh, but however, I think the main point we are still talking about our deepest clinging to the home or to a house or to our own country. I think that is universally still quite be understanding for most of the people. So my point was, back to your questions, I just want to emphasize that, yeah, Taiwan movie, if we're only talking to Taiwan, that will be a little bit hard for people to understand. But if we can actually just broaden our ambitions, or actually seeing in a different kind of view, I think the 3 titles we're talking about here, we are actually still in a very different kind of realm, because mine, maybe we talked about the home and the political way, a Director Kuo's title talking about the teachers and actually about all the explanation systems in Taiwan, and Director Chen's title talking about our LGBT communities. I think all those 3 aspects are still quite universally accepted. So I think if we can actually just allow the audience to maybe just give it a try, first and see that how things going on with what's in the movie. Maybe we can actually jump out of the genre. Oh, this is only a Taiwanese movie. this is a movie just, I think movies, especially commercial movies or indie movies, movies are for everybody. So, rather than speaking out like, oh, in a time like this, it's sad that all the movie theaters are closed. But there's always a silver lining. I mean, all right now, the virtual meetings or the virtual film festival, that, as you said, is really the best chance to just expose to every different kind of movie you can possibly think about these days. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I do agree with you about that. But I think in the context of film festival, it has a very special audience that you're dealing with, right? You have like festival addicts who just go to film festival and watch everything in the film festival. And you also have people who are there really looking for something connected to their home or their home culture or something they have been missing a lot. So there's also this very interesting dynamics in film festivals, I think. And I wonder, I know this is more of a question of distribution, but I wonder if Director Chen and Director Kuo also have anything you would like to share with us?
我先简单讲一讲那个，我前一个片子，是一个改编自日本的小说，然后呢，它同时在日本跟台湾发行。
She would like to talk about her previous film, which is an adaptation of a Japanese novel, and then she made it into a film.
对，那因为两边的发行商，他们采取的宣传策略完全不一样，他们设定的target audience 也完全不一样。
So for both sides in Japan and Taiwan, the selling distribution method is very different.
在台湾的发行商很小心的，不要给大家一个文学改编的印象，但是在日本就非常强调文学改编这件事情。
So in Taiwan, they would the distributor very careful in their wording not to make it so that it's very novel based and very like it's
文学 base， 他们强调
like
他们很害怕。
like they don't want the selling point to be a novel that people will think, oh, this is like too complicated in a way.
Yeah, too literature. Yeah.
Yeah, that there's like a distance away from what the audience might expect. But in Japan, they were very heavy that like this is a novel, this is very deep and like what you would expect from a novel, basically. I think the perspective of novel is different in Japan and Taiwan.
或者文学吧，就是说他们对于文学这件事情的想象，literature something about literature， 对，就是台湾的发行有一种担忧，就是说，当你想象它是一个文学的时候，观众会自己设限了这样子。
So it's overall there's a misconception of what the word literature present in a branding wise. So in Taiwan, it relates to more like heavy and not as attractive as how the word literature is used in Japan. So for branding wise, when they were selling the movie to the audience, one would refrain from using the word literature, and the other one would use the word literature.
This actually reminded me of the way the film titles were translated, right? I know Final Exam was just direct translation into 期末考. I mean, the other way around. Sorry, 期末考 to a final exam. But then for 逃出立法院 was translated for the international audience as Get the Hell Out, which is more, I guess, more of a genre zombie kind of touch to that. And then with The Teacher, the original Chinese title was actually My Soul Was Made. I'm just gonna do my own translation. Like My Soul Was Made of Love.
Made of love, yes.
Yeah, so I wonder, how did you decided on that translation?
Well, for me, the title is always not translatable. So the teacher, I got it because I wrote my script in English. So that's the very beginning of my script. I called it The Teacher. But then when we are trying to distribute it in Taiwan, it becomes a problem. If you just say 老师, the teacher, I don't think anybody's gonna come to the theater to see that. So we need to see how, to try to get close or try to find out what the market's taste is, which is why my distributor came up with this title that's very, how would you say, romantic? Yeah. Yeah, so, and in Chinese, it sounds beautiful. So, which is why we go with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it is such a beautiful title. It's so fragile in a way, and it fits so well with the film. I'm like a big fan of that title. It's so beautiful. And I wonder if Eric and Yi-Sen can talk about the translation of 逃出立法院.
其实之前在想片名的时候，有一个蛮特别的现象是，因为台湾之前前几年有几次社会运动嘛，那都是占领立法院或是攻占就是在立法院里面抗议绝食啊。对，那我们在想片名的时候，我们就想说，那因为立法院没有其实我们直接用这个方式去连结是最快的。所以大家都想攻占立法院，可是如果今天是里面的委员想要逃出来的，那会是什么样的情况？对，那英文片名。
So in previous years in Taiwan, there's been a lot of social movements going on, and a lot of people are actually going into the assembly, parliament and assembly floor, but they kind of wanted to do something different, which is complete opposite of that. Is a movie that is trying to the people are trying to get out of it, and that's how the Chinese title came about.
So I was just briefly talking about that, how we actually get the English title. So definitely, as we were just speaking of, if we actually just literal translation, talking about that, how we can actually just get out of the parliament. Well, definitely the parliament, this word, well, doesn't exist in many different kind of, political or actually political corrected countries. So in other ways, we just think about that. Okay, so everybody, as our producer just said, in Taiwan, many people want to get into the parliament, but how about that we just get out of the parliament? And then if we subtract the parliament or subtract the building, we just want to get the hell out. Just mean that really direct, and we just really want to people that, you should just come and see our titles, and then if you really don't like it, just get the hell out. So this is how we actually get this really simple and actually quite easy track to actually get that people to remember ourselves.
I love that humorous twist. Like everyone wants to get in, but then how do you get out? It's really funny. I didn't think of that. So thank you for sharing that. And I'm looking at the time, so I'm going to throw at you my final question for today. So I wonder if you can share with us what's next for you. Are you currently working on any new film projects? Are you able to tell us anything about them? Getting into this gossip mode now.
所以可以分享一下你下一步计划是什么吗？
I will start it first. And then we actually, Director Wang, he's right now actually in mainland China for actually doing his new script. So basically, he will still be focused on this kind of the genre film titles, and then we can definitely anticipate that what he will be giving us next. And then that will be for the director himself. And for my company, for the production company that we have here for the Green Grass, the things about actually we have encountered for last year is actually, though we talked a lot about how we actually reach the audience and everything, but sadly our box office in Taiwan was not that good because of the pandemic. So in this year, we actually shifted a little bit. We are actually starting to making more TV genres and TV series rather than theatrical movies. So in Taiwan, this kind of the own new trending for all people are just staying at home, and probably they would just go on Netflix and Disney and other kind of the international OTT platforms to enjoy entertainment. So this year, our company will be more focusing on this TV drama and TV series and mini series instead of actually theatrical titles. So that will be the new trend or actually new kind of attempt for our company. Thank you.
我自己有一个台湾文学家的计划，大概断断续续准备了10年，不过因为它有一点跨时代，所以我也不太晓得什么时间点能够真的开始启动，因为我想它的集资会需要一点时间这样。
所以是文
学家的台湾文学家的故事。
故事 Okay, so she's working on a local Taiwan writer's story about their literature and stuff, but it's a little complicated and there's a multi-generation involvement, so she's not too sure how the plan will be, but she's gonna try.
I currently have 2 projects I'm working on, but they are all in the very beginning status, so I am not quite sure, and I don't know, it might take a little bit time to see which one would come out better. So currently I'm just hanging around and reading my book, Dreams of Red Chamber. So yeah, we'll see.
What a good read for the pandemic. Thank you so much all, and we really look forward to your projects, and hopefully we'll see them next year in a SIFF.
非常谢谢 Alan 跟 Angel 还有现场的各位。
Wonderful, and I echo that as well. We love having your films this year, and we look forward to 2022 or 2023. Please stay in touch about your future works, and we would love to consider them for the festival. Thank you to everyone for watching at home. You're wonderful. We love connecting a cinema and audience, and you are an integral part of that. Again, a special thanks to the Taiwan Academy for their support, as well as the Taiwan Studies Program at the University of Washington, to Angel Chou, yes, for translating for us today, and for Ellen Chang from the University of Washington for moderating this exemplary discussion. And to all of our filmmakers, thank you for your art. I value it, and thank you for joining us, everyone, tonight.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Bye.
Stay safe, everyone.